current slide. Yes. Okay. So this is our agenda. And so you'll be hearing from each of these panelists, wonderful panelists. I'll introduce each one of them. But for me, so I am Debra Ross, as you've heard. I started off as Rochester, New York's Eclipse Task Force Chair and started becoming involved nationally with the AAS's task force in 2019 at the summer meeting, actually, and where we had our first Eclipse Task Force meeting after the 2017 eclipse to start learning from applying those lessons to 2024. And several of the people on this panel were also part of that as well. One other person, so there's Angela in absentia, but she is here in spirit. There's Rick, and I came on as co-chair. Rick asked me in 2022 to be the co-chair with Angela to help sort of pull in communities for this. Lurking in the background is Jamie Carter, who is a journalist who you've probably largely met from his work in Forbes.com, Sky and Telescope, Space.com, things like that. Because Jamie and I are going to have applied the lessons that we observed over the hundreds of articles that he wrote and my observations of communities, healthy and unhealthy, through my 20 years of experience. My experience, I'm not a scientist. I am the publisher of a network of websites across the US and Canada called kidsoutandabout.com, which is all about celebrating what communities offer for families, for fun learning, entertainment, and all of that. So I've been looking at communities and what makes them run for a long time. And so I think that's why Rick and Angela asked me to co-chair, and why a lot of those principles combined with Jamie's stories have combined for a new book called The Eclipse Effect. And that's coming out, Post Hill Press, December 9th. I think Rick has a slide with the QR code on it. And what these communities did across the country to prepare for these eclipses really was nothing short of extraordinary. And the fact that those lessons are applicable way beyond eclipses is why we are having this session today and why we thought it deserved a book. And so the eclipse effect is a phrase that we have coined, and I'd like that to start penetrating science and all kinds of outreach. What we are calling the eclipse effect is a phenomenon, I don't really want to read it, but in which a temporary network that is formed in response to a unique opportunity or problem transitions with good coordination and leadership and vision into a permanent new community of people of widely diverse backgrounds, skills, and resources. Okay, so we're kind of a manifestation of the eclipse effect here. The last eclipse was in more than a year ago, and here we are, still organized, still doing good work. So let's see. The catalyst for such an opportunity doesn't have to be something positive, although, boy, it's great if it's something positive, right? It could be an anniversary too, right? So maybe, your grandparents are having their 75th anniversary. That could be a reason to organize. That could provide the leverage and the momentum for somebody in a family to pull together the entire family, right? So the eclipse effect is beyond just science, beyond just outreach. It could be a tragedy also. And you'll hear some stories of what these networks formed, how they managed subsequent tragedies. But it could also be a tragedy, like all of a sudden somebody yanks all of your funding that you've depended on for your entire profession, and something needs to be done. People say, we need to do something, we need to organize. So we're going to be talking about the nuts and bolts of that here in this panel. So one way of describing the networks within communities was done by Robert Putnam, whose 2000 book, Bowling Alone, was a really seminal work in American sociology. And he described two types of social capital that exist among community members: bonding social capital and bridging social capital. You can think of bonding social capital as kind of almost this organic bond that people recognize in each other, recognize themselves as part of a community. You all have that by virtue of your profession and your interest in astronomy, right? You're kind of natural. If you bump into people out on the street or on the plane, as I found, and you suddenly realize that you have this common interest, you feel kind of this instant bond. And that also exists within cultural groups. It exists within families. It doesn't need to be sort of worked on. but bridging social capital does. So bridging social capital are the bonds that are formed very deliberately, especially by leaders of communities, to help make connections between people who wouldn't necessarily work together or naturally be drawn to each other. And Putnam said that both types of social capital are very important in functioning of healthy communities. So if you're thinking about leading or working with people who are leading, thinking about how to make your community strong is a really important thing to do at the very beginning. What I've noticed over the years is that healthy communities have leaders who are doing three main things. They're serving as three main points. They are serving as the architect of the community, right? Providing the tools, setting the goals, helping ensure inclusivity for all the participants. They're acting as glue to keep people united and cohesive and bonded together. And they're also acting as cheerleader. So they're motivating people. They're the ones in charge of celebrating progress at every stage. Notice what I have not said. A leader is not an authoritarian. A leader is not somebody who can tell people to do things. In fact, you have to explicitly acknowledge, I can't tell you to do anything. My job is to inspire, to give you the tools so that you can succeed. And so what a leader is doing is lots and lots of hard work creating these bridges between people and keeping them glued together and nurtured. And cheering people on as their successes pile up. So keeping tabs and helping ensure a kind of flexibility of vision that incorporates everybody's vision. So here's the thing, the other thing that you recognize as the leader of any community or any effort you're trying to pull together. Every single person is in this for their reasons, not for yours. So this isn't a kind of like Pied Piper type of leadership where you have a big vision and it's all about you and you say this vision motivated and then you run in this direction and hope people follow you. No, this is, you have a type of vision that is going to be flexible depending on the people within the people you're able to attract. So what happens that we're using in our book to extend this idea of Putnam's idea is that bridging social capital, which you are doing endlessly, eventually, if you nurture the kind of identity among the team, among this community, then they get this kind of identity. In our case, it was those crazy eclipse people. We'll always be those crazy eclipse people. That's our identity now. And we are naturally then bonded together. So that is the job of the leader. Actually, I haven't moved on. Let me just say really, I know where I am. Okay. Why does success require diversity? And it does. Okay, this is Kat Trokey. Where are you, Kat? Yeah, this is her slide from last year. Not why success requires diversity, but this is a perfect picture of the Astronomical Society of the Pacific's eclipse ambassadors. You need lots of kinds of people. Imagine that I'm helping, form a community, and you have everybody who's just like me. Well, what you have are these bunch of cheerleaders cheering each other on, like bonding each other, and then nothing else really gets done, right? You need people of all stripes. So for eclipse organizing, we had all kinds of leaders. We had astronomers, of course, we had scientists, we had educators, we had tourism people, we had emergency managers, we had politicians. Everybody you could possibly attract, you always want more because you want them for their knowledge, resources, networks, backgrounds. You need diversity of ideas. You need diversity of resources. You need diversity of networks. Because if you're organizing to have an effect in the world, you need that to be spread to as many people as possible. So this is way more than lip service to diversity. This diversity is your strength. Okay. How do you glue the community together? There's lots and lots of reasons, but stuff really helps. Okay, so we started in Rochester in 2017, right after the 2017 eclipse. People thought we were nuts, but I did my best to make it fun. I think I did. We started meeting before this thing happened in 2020, which separated us all from each other. But we were already a community that then went on Zoom. But our first meeting after Zoom was in December of 2021. And what I did, and by the way, as a leader, you spend your own money on everything, just so you know. What I did was I bought 72 Eclipse stakeholder mugs. And it says, where will you be on April 8th, 2024? Sunny Rochester, New York, the city that made light fun. And I put a little stake in here with a 2024 flag on it. So it was a stakeholder mug. And only the first 72 people who came into that meeting got one of those. So what I was doing was my best to encourage this kind of usness of the community, give them stuff, and they'll become us. And so you'll see, I've been asking everybody to put their name in our hat. If those of you who came in late, we'll give you that opportunity. We have door prizes. And I have lots of stuff left over from the Rochester Eclipse Task Force, and you all will have the opportunity to win it and become one of us. That's Trish on our panel, and that's me at the June 2023 Task Force meeting in Albuquerque. And when I saw in May of 2023 that genius Trish Ertzfeld had made Perryville, Missouri's logo to be back in black because they were in the 2017 and the 2024 eclipse, I saw that in May, thank goodness, because I said, Trish, you got to bring me one because I need one. And so that's me and Trish there. This is the September of 2023 Task Force meeting in San Antonio, where we asked everybody to bring all their swag because we wanted them to, A, give people other people ideas. We still had 6 months before the eclipse. B, we wanted them to brag, and we wanted them to all feel like us. And that night, we all drew names out of the hat. It took over an hour because look at all that stuff, but it works. My last point is that your goal line is not singular. Your goal line is lots and lots of lines. Okay, first of all, so what you need is a flexible and varied definition of success, and you need to measure it all the way. It's not, can we get the US government to reverse course on funding? The goal line has to be a lot of different ones, and they have to be individual and collective goal lines as you're in this effort. So everybody who's involved in your task force has their own, by understanding that every time they have small successes along the way, every single milestone is their success. And if you're paying attention as a leader, it's your success, and then the community finds out about it. But there's another line. Those lines of the connections that are formed between the people in your task force are permanent. And that is part of what we're calling the Eclipse Effect. Extraordinary opportunities, organizing with vision and tons of hard work to create a bridge between all the individuals in your network. You do great work, you do great work, I'm gonna connect you. I have gifted you with this permanent connection. As a leader, you will never see exactly what will happen from that for years to come. But you made it happen nonetheless. So as you are considering this often thankless job, consider all of those invisible gifts that you are giving with your hard work, and you won't know what positive effects will happen in the future. So use that to keep yourself going. We did a survey at the end of our task force 3 weeks after the eclipse to ask people, who did you know before? We had 174 very active members. Who did you know after, and how did the strength of those bonds change? And that's the graph. Those are the new relationships that were formed in Rochester, New York for the organizing of this effort. We had clouds. It sucked. But we had all of these positive milestones along the way. We had loads of connections. We had tons of visibility. So we had lots of ways of measuring success. And we clung to that on April 8th of 2024 when the clouds rolled in. So thank you very much.